If you're 50 plus and you're looking to prevent injuries, especially falls and slips that can lead to things like broken hips, then this is the video for you, because in it, you're gonna learn a missing link that is not often talked about when it comes to injury prevention exercises. Coach E here from Precision Movement, and today we're gonna take a little departure from our typical content, which is focused on fixing pain and dealing with injuries that you have, and instead talk about how to prevent injuries in the future. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spend a little bit of time, a few minutes, on our background and theoretical framework behind our approach to preventing injuries. And we're gonna talk about these concepts, and then we're going to go through some exercises that walk you through the concepts and put them into action. Focus on lower body injuries. It could be anywhere from the hips to the ankles. So things like ankle sprains, breaking your hip for older people especially, knee problems. All these issues can be prevented with this framework and by following the approach that we're going to outline. So what is this? We've got a couple things here. On the bottom, we've got what we call our foundation for pain-free movement. And this is what we largely talk about, and the exercises we talk about are centered around the foundation for pain-free movement. That's the stuff in all the other videos that you've seen here on YouTube and in our programs. What sits on top of the foundation is what we call the performance pyramid. So for the foundation for pain-free movement, we've got 4 pillars. If you think about a table that's got 4 legs, if you don't have those 4 legs in place, you've got a wobbly table, you've got a shaky foundation. The 4 pillars are tissue quality, activation, alignment, and active range of motion. I'm not going to go into those things here in this video. These are things that we touch on in other videos, and for sure we walk you through in our programs like the knee pain solution, for example. What I'm going to focus on today is the performance pyramid, and I've broken it down into 3 different levels here. The first level is endurance. How does endurance impact injury prevention and injuries in general? One way is that fatigue is often a precursor to injury, because when you get fatigued, you can't maintain good technique, whether it's exercising in the gym or if you're on the tennis court. If you get tired, you're going to get sloppy, you're going to get lazy, your posture is going to get bad, you're going to start slouching. And when that happens, you can't execute with good alignment, with good technique, so you're at a greater risk of injury there. So endurance is one concept. Number 2 is strength. So we like to build endurance first, and then we like to build strength. How does strength impact injury risk? Well, if you build strength and you do proper strength training where you're trying to increase the amount of weight you can lift in an exercise like a squat or a lunge or a pull down or a row, for example, when you increase your strength with those exercises, you build up tissue tolerance. So your tissues, your muscles, your fascia can handle more load. So you've got greater reserve, because if you're in sport or if you're in everyday life and you have to pick something up, you've got the ability to do that with good form, and you decrease your injury risk that way. So that's one way, one example. The tip of the pyramid, there's a few things that can go in here. We've got power, we've got speed, and we've got agility. Now, when it comes to the tip of the pyramid, these are things that if you're not an elite athlete, you don't often train these things. So if you're just a recreational tennis player or hockey player, you don't often train these things in the gym. The problem here is that if it's required in your sport and you don't train it, how do you expect your body to execute well? I think of an old saying, I think this comes from the Navy SEALs. You don't rise to the occasion, you sink to your level of training. So if you don't train it, how are you going to be able to execute it and execute it well? Now, the second point of this tip of the pyramid and how important it is that if you don't train power, speed, or agility, whether you're an athlete or not, your inability to quickly stabilize or respond to sudden movements or unexpected terrain if you're out for a hike, you're not going to have that ability to do that because you haven't trained these things, these components. So all of these things are important, not just for athletes, but for regular people doing everyday things. If you train these things, you're going to dramatically decrease your injury risk. And I talked about how this video, or I titled this video for 50 plus. This is especially true for those 50 plus, because these elements, you'll start to lose these things at the tip of the pyramid first as you get older. You'll start to lose your power, your speed, your agility. Then you'll start to lose your strength. Then you'll lose your endurance. But the good news is that all of these qualities are trainable. So I'm going to show you how to do that with the exercises coming up now. Now I'm going to walk you through a set of exercises that progresses from the bottom of the pyramid, which is endurance, up to the tip of the pyramid, which is power, speed, and agility. And we're going to base all of these exercises around the lunge movement pattern. This is one of the key fundamental movement patterns, and it's my favorite lower body movement pattern because we build that asymmetrical strength, the unilateral strength, and it's more transferable to sport and everyday life because we're splitting stance and we have to balance on one leg. So it's like running and all the things that you'll do on your feet. We're not often just going up and down like a squat. So I like the lunge. That's my favorite exercise for the lower body. To start off for endurance, I'm going to pick the reverse lunge. Again, this is my favorite variation. It's easier on the knees and it trains everything we need to train. And there's 4 key form cues for the reverse lunge. First is when you step back, your front foot stays flat so you don't pop the heel up off the ground. And your weight is evenly distributed between the heel and the forefoot. And if you can get that active arch going, then do so. So you're stepping back, the front foot stays flat. Second, you maintain good posture and you extend the rear hip. So your good posture, the hip is extended here, not flexed and folded like so. So good posture, extend the rear hip. Number 3, kiss the knee to the ground. So you're kissing the knee to the ground, just lightly. You're not slamming that knee into the ground, just a light kiss to the ground. And number 4, you're thinking of pulling yourself up with the front foot. So I'm pulling myself up with the front foot. I'm not pushing myself up with the back leg. So stepping back, pulling myself up. Most of the weight is through this front foot. So I'm loading up that foot and that leg and using this side to bring myself up. So that's the basic form for the reverse lunge. Now to train it for endurance, you want to do 2 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps per leg, resting about a minute in between sets. If you could do it with body weight and you could do 12 reps on each leg with good form, that's when you know it's time to add some weight, either through dumbbells or through a barbell over on your shoulders. Now moving up the pyramid to the next notch is strength, and it's the same exact exercise loaded up, except this time you're doing 3 to 5 sets, 3 to 6 repetitions per leg, and you can rest a little bit longer in between sets for strength training. So rest 2 to 3 minutes in between sets there. And for both strength and endurance, go about twice a week, and you do each for 3 to 4 weeks. Now, moving up to the tip of the pyramid, this is where most people, this is the missing link for most people when it comes to training and exercise, especially if you're not an elite athlete and you've never been exposed to these methods. We're training power, speed, and agility. And to do that, we have to move fast, hence speed, hence power. And we've got to move in different movement patterns. So I'm going to take you through 4 different variations of just body weight exercises to get started that will help you to improve these elements of the performance pyramid, the tip of the performance pyramid, and they'll also help you to improve your single leg balance. So another aspect that's super important, especially as you get older, to train and to help you to prevent falls and injuries that can result from slips and things like that. So the first exercise is the drop to lunge. For the drop to lunge, you're just starting up on your toes, and you can use a wall for balance or something to balance if you need it. And all you're doing is you're starting up here, and then quickly you drop, and then you stick it. And then you go again, and you go on the other side. Drop and stick it. Here we're starting to train that speed component of the tip of the performance pyramid, but also that ability to balance and the ability to absorb force. So that's really important. The ability to absorb force occurs in sport, like when you're running, let's say you're playing tennis and you're running to the side, you have to stop and then you have to come back. That's absorbing force and it's redirecting force. So the drop to lunge and all of the exercises that we're going to go through in the speed, power, and agility are to be done for 4 to 6 sets, 3 to 5 reps each, and take about 1 minute rest in between sets. So that's the first element. Drop to lunge, we're starting to train that speed and that balance. Next, it's drop to one leg. So it's the same idea. You're starting up on your toes, and then you drop, and then you stick it. Hold it for a couple seconds, and then repeat on the other side. Stick it, and I'm losing it there. So you keep going. Again, doing 3 to 5 reps on each leg, 4 to 6 sets total, resting about a minute in between sets. So here, the balance component goes up a little bit more, and the force absorption component goes up more because now we're absorbing the force just on one leg, as opposed to in the drop to lunge, you're absorbing the force on 2 legs. So the amount of weight you have to absorb essentially doubles. So that increases the power component now that we need, because power is force times velocity, if you want to go back to grade 12 physics. Next up, the jump to one leg. So here we're going to increase the amount of force we have to absorb even more, because as opposed to just starting from on your tippy toes, you're going to actually jump into it and then catch yourself in the lunge, in the one leg position. So we're just coming from a little bit of a higher position. We're starting from a higher position, and it's just that gravity, because we're starting at a higher position, that increases the amount of force we have to absorb there. So same thing, 4 to 6 sets, 3 to 5 reps, 1 minute rest in between. And finally, now we're going to go into different planes of motion, because everything's been in this sagittal plane of motion predominantly, which is moving the arms like this. Now we're going to go into the frontal plane of motion, which is any movement like this. And to do that, we're going to go to the lateral jump to one leg, also known as a speed skater exercise, and we're just going to stick it. So we can start here. We're just going to jump to one side, stick it, and then we can jump right over, stick it. Got to catch it a little bit there. And you keep repeating, holding for 2 seconds, and then going. Maintaining good posture, sticking it for 2 seconds. And now we're teaching our body to absorb this force in the lateral direction. So whatever sport you play or whatever activity you do, I'm sure you can see the corollaries in those sports and activities. So all of these power, speed, and agility techniques, you'll want to do them for 3 to 4 weeks, twice a week. That's how you're going to train your muscles and your nervous system, your brain, to be able to perform these skills. These are just skills that you need to learn. So that's the basic rundown of how to use what we call the performance pyramid to further prevent injuries and to help you move freely and without pain for the long term, so you can do the active things you love. Let me know what you thought. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions or other topics you'd like me to cover, then you can let us know down there. And we've got a couple other videos that we'd like you to check out on the foundation. So one is something I just briefly mentioned on the foot intrinsics. Dr. B just did this video. It's really, really good to get those feet working. Number 2 is on the vastus medialis for anybody with knee issues. That's key. And number 3, if you do have knee issues, check out the Knee Pain Solution for a progressive program that takes you through many different exercises in multiple phases to fix your knees right up and get to the root cause.